What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick and Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media, getting you ready for Patriots 2024 training camp. A lot of questions surrounding this team, new head coach, new quarterback, and also who's going to protect that new quarterback. A reminder, we are powered by Game Time. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, tackle, on the left, we likely have Chukwuma Okorafor. On the right, a mix of Caedan Wallace, Mike Onwenu, depending on how that situation goes. Taylor, how do you think it's going to play out? What should we be looking for over these next couple weeks in training camp?
Well, with Chukwuma Okorafor, I feel like he's the guy who's getting the most criticism, which is fair. He was really just a solid starter on the right side for the Steelers, but he was also a career starter and someone that they did bench last season, but that was more, I think, because of an off-field situation where he kind of got caught talking badly about one of the coaches, Matt Canada, wound up getting fired pretty soon after, so not like he was wrong, but he even mentioned in an interview that if he knew he was going to be on the bench, he wouldn't have re-signed with the Steelers, which he did that season. So I do think he's someone they have confidence in, been one of the few guys on that offensive line who's actually been consistent, hasn't moved at all. So that's going to be a situation where we really just have to see how it plays out on the field. But beyond there, I think the right tackle situation is going to be very interesting. Yeah. For most of the spring practices, we saw Mike Onwenu as that right tackle, which after he got paid is what we all expected. Yep. But even still, the amount of money he's making, he's getting paid like either a top 5 right tackle or a top 5 right guard. So I think if the Patriots do end up kicking him inside, one, I think the best you're going to get out of Mike Onwenu is if he's at that guard spot. He's shown that he can be an elite pass protector as well as a dominant downhill run blocker. A bit of an odd fit in that wide zone scheme for the Patriots that they're probably going to run under Van Pelt, but it's also a diverse run scheme and they're going to do a lot of different things. So I think they'd be able to figure it out. But I like Caedan Wallace, who we saw at right tackle. We saw it with the second team towards the beginning of minicamp. It was Mike Onwenu at guard, Caedan Wallace at right tackle with the twos. Then in the last day, we saw that was actually part of the starting lineup with obviously David Andrews in the middle, then Sidney Sow at left guard, and Chukwuma Okorafor at left tackle. With Wallace, we've talked about can he make the transition to the left side and all that speculation, which makes sense, but that looks like it's going to be a ways away because of the confidence they seem to have in Chukwuma Okorafor. I like the idea of getting Caedan Wallace on the field and getting live reps because it's hard enough to switch sides and get used to the NFL game. Now he'll have a chance to understand how he kind of fits in the pro game under Scott Peters, knowing what he wants to do at a position where he is comfortable, but we also know he's going to be cross-trained. All these guys are going to end up, pretty much all of them, I don't think Mike Onwenu is going to be on the left, but most of these guys are going to cross-train so that they have positional versatility, so I think that he's going to get opportunities to play left and start to, get a little bit of a feel for that, but I do like that he's at right tackle, gets to be a little more comfortable because it's a spot that he's used to, and then actually gets some live NFL reps and kind of gives you more stability on that offensive line, which, as we know from the past couple seasons, is crucial in actually having a strong unit.
Yeah, the Caedan Wallace thing has kind of been, a roller coaster. When they drafted him, everyone's like, why are we drafting a right tackle? And then it comes out, Elliott Wolf says they think he can play left tackle, so we're like, okay, that can make sense. They can pencil him in there eventually. Behind Chukwuma Okorafor, maybe sort of a developmental player there. But now with Onwenu essentially moving from tackle back to guard throughout the offseason program, we see Wallace at that spot at right tackle, and he'll probably is maybe strong. We'll see what happens on the field, obviously, but it looks like he could cement himself there as this team's starting right tackle. You kind of mentioned the cross-training stuff, but if Caedan Wallace does start essentially the entire season at right tackle, Okorafor's only here on a 1-year deal, they move on from him next season, how easy do you think it's going to be for him to move from the right to the left and kind of, go from there throughout the rest of his career?
Well, again, I think, one, he also repped at the left in college as well. Obviously, they had Olu Fashanu, didn't really need him to play left tackle, but he does have experience. I think next season, if he has an entire offseason to train, get used to the left side, again, knowing what he's good at and what he struggled in as a rookie on the right side, I think that'll definitely help the transition, just having something tangible under his belt. And beyond that, like we spoke to Brandon Thorne, check that out on Patriots Press Pass. Great interview with the O-line mastermind, my go-to for all of my offensive line insights. He did say that he thinks that Caedan Wallace has the skill set to play on the left side, and even though he's an older prospect, he's someone who has a lot of experience, and I think that's really going to help versus, Scott Peters having to work with a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience, not only at the position, but also just playing the game. And with Caedan Wallace, he really helped his draft stock towards the end of his Penn State career because he made a huge jump in that final season, and you see it in the patience and the technique that he plays with. So I have a lot of confidence that he can make that transition to the left side, but that's now feels like something that's way down the line. But I think there's optimism there as long as obviously he feels comfortable with playing both sides, which he's kind of downplayed and made it seem like it's not a huge deal for him.
The huge storyline here is obviously quarterback at training camp for the Patriots, drafting Drake number 3 overall. How much does the confidence the Patriots have in said offensive line factor into when they ultimately start the quarterback, do you think?
Well, I don't think you want Drake May getting killed back there.
Right.
And obviously part of that's going to be on the scheme. With this Alex Van Pelt offense, a big staple when he was with the Browns was making sure you had a strong run game, a play-action game that could supplement it so the defense didn't really know what was coming. And then quick game, RPOs, things like that, where the quarterback isn't just dropping back with no threat of the run and just having to chuck it. Now, as Drake May, gets more comfortable whenever he ends up playing, I'm sure you'll maybe start to see a little bit of just letting him do his thing. Right. But for right now, I think a lot of that's going to fall on the play caller. But at the same time, if we end up seeing in training camp in the preseason that the offensive line that they project to be the starters out there are just letting in pressure constantly, I do think you have to factor in, all right, we do have this veteran. We don't necessarily need to put Drake May out there if it's going to lead to him developing bad habits. But I also think that Drake May, as we touched on in our quarterback video, is talented enough that if, left tackle, say, is a glaring hole, but there's stability in other spots, I think you could still work around that because Drake is such a mobile guy. He has a good feel for pressure. But again, you just don't want him back there getting bad habits because he's constantly in fear of the rush, like we saw with Mac Jones towards the end of his Patriots tenure.
Couple years in a row now, wide receiver, quarterback, and tackle are those, 3 10-pole needs the Patriots have to try and figure out in order to have success. Once again, same things happening in 2024. We'll see what happens. We'll see how the whole competition plays out, and we'll keep you updated here on Patriots Press Pass with it all. So make sure you rate, review, subscribe on YouTube, and check out all of our written work at clnsmedia.com.
Make sure to subscribe to Patriots Press Pass for all your Patriots news and updates on YouTube, and for all our written work, make sure you check out clnsmedia.com.